Hello and welcome to episode 5 of my knitting podcast. My name is Annika and I'm coming to you from Germany. I am a natural yarn dyer as well as an avid knitter, and I basically love all things fiber arts. In this episode I'm going to share a finished object with you, some works in progress and also some spinning. Let's get started. As always, let's start with what I'm wearing today. Now, as you can tell, this is not a knitted item, but it is handmade nonetheless. The sewing pattern is called the Hemlock Tee, and I think it is a pattern by Grainline Studio. I'm going to link it for you in the description box below, because you can actually get it for free, and I can highly recommend this pattern. The fit is rather boxy, but I really like it for summer because it is so light and airy. Now, the pattern was originally written for knit fabrics like jersey, but I opted to use a 100% linen fabric that I got off of Etsy instead. And like I said, I absolutely love this pattern, and it gets a ton of wear every spring and summer. Now, back to the knitting, or let's get started with the knitting rather. The first object that I want to talk about is a finished object, and it is the Ankers Dress by Petite Knit. Now, if you've watched the previous episode, you will have seen this work in progress already. It was a work in progress then, and now it's a finished object because I casted it on rather recently and then prioritized it and finished it quite quickly because this is going to be a gift. It is a gift for one of my nieces who is turning 3 at the end of May. Let me show it to you up close. The Ankers Dress is a very popular pattern by Petite Knit, so you might be familiar with it. You can not only get it as this girl's dress version, but I think it also comes in a tee pattern for adults and kids, as well as I think even a sweater and maybe even a cardigan. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to link all of the patterns down below so that you can check them out. But like I said, I made this girl's dress for my niece, and since she is rather petite, I opted for the 2 to 3 year size, and I think it is going to fit her perfectly fine. Now, there are 2 modifications I made to the pattern that I wanted to show you. The first one is here in the back. As you can see, my version is closed off with a bow, and what I did here is that I simply crocheted a chain on the one side, on the top of the one side, and then crocheted all around the back opening and did another crochet chain so that the dress can be closed with a bow, because I find that when I made dresses for my own daughters and they are usually closed off with a button and a buttonhole or a crochet loop for the button closure, that their hair got tangled in the button a lot, and of course this wasn't very pleasant for them, and this is why I opted to do this modification. The other modification I made is to the hem and the sleeves. Let me show you again. You can see here that this is a picot bind off, and this was not how it is written in the pattern. The Ankers Dress for girls is written as a long sleeved version, but since summer is coming up, I wanted to do a summer dress and I opted for short sleeves. And what I did then is, like I said, that I modified the hem and the cuffs of the sleeve with this picot edging, and I purposefully did not finish it here down at the hem, because I wanted to show you how it is actually done if you have never done some bind off like this before, because I think it's a very clever technique. Let's see if I'll be able to show it to you here. If not, I'm going to insert a picture afterwards. So what you do here is that you knit one round where you do knit 2 together yo and or a yarn over, and you repeat this all throughout the round, and this then later on creates these little mini scallops. So this is the round that you can see here with the holes that are created by the yarn overs, and then you switch to a smaller needle and knit a couple of rounds of stockinette. And what you do then, what you do next, let me see if I can show you. You just fold it under like this and then sew all along this edge here. Be careful not to choose a stitch that is going to be visible from the outside, and then you created the picot edge. Maybe you will be able to tell if I take it off and show you the inside of the sleeve, because it's actually not complicated at all, and I think it looks really nicely. So this is it here. You can see that I sewn the edge down on the inside, and this created the mini scallops here. And I think this is a very cute finishing technique, especially for a girl's pattern. Yeah, and now all there's left to do is, like I said, fold it over, fold the hem over and stitch it down. But I'm calling this a finished object because the knitting portion of the dress is finished, and when I'm done sewing I'm going to block it and then be able to gift it to my niece, and I hope that she's going to like it. The yarn I used is from Sandness and it is called Mandarin Petite. It is a 100% cotton yarn in the colorway, let me check, where is it, 7720, and I knitted this yarn with a size 3mm needle, which I think corresponds to a US 2.5. And like I said, for the edging I switched to a smaller needle. I used a 2.5mm needle, which corresponds to a US 1.5. So overall I'm very happy with how this dress came out. I actually had a look at it and it could almost be an Ankers tee for myself. There's quite a lot of knitting in it, but I have to say I really like this yoke motif here and the simplicity of the rest of the pattern, so I'm thinking about making a Ankers tee for me this summer. We'll see if I get around to it. Alright, let's move on to works in progress. I have shown you these socks before. Those are the Kura Socks by Miss Avel Knits. In the last episode I was working on the first sock, but I have since finished it and I'm now working on the second sock. Let me show it to you. I'm just at the point where I will have to do the heel flap. Now, as you can see, the socks are knitted toe up, and this is actually my first time knitting a pair of socks toe up. I usually always knit calf down, and to be quite honest, I think I prefer the calf down method. I'm not sure if this is the case just because I'm used to it, or yeah, if knitting toe up is just not for me. I'm not really sure, but I do really like the pattern. It's not a fault of the pattern at all. I just think it's very different. The yarn I'm using is Anspan yarn, and I'm marling together two different yarns. So this cream one is Blötulopi by Istex, and this little ball here is Nutidin yarn. This is from the May collection of this year that just came out, and this is the color Teppa, I think, and it's a very beautiful colorway. It looks like a neutral. Let me show it to you here. But you have flecks of pinks and light greens in it. I think it's a very pretty colorway, and I'm still contemplating whether I should get some more because I only have a small amount of these colors. because I ordered I think they call it a surprise package from Nutiden, where you get 200 grams of yarn, but you don't know which colorways and in which amounts. So I got lucky and I got, I think, all of the colorways from the May collection, but only in small plates. So that's why I decided to make this sock. Yeah, but looking at the first sock now, I think it looks a bit off. Maybe you can tell as well. I had some issues with my tension, both when I cast it on and increased here, and also at the heel flap, because I was so afraid, because unspun yarn is so fragile, that it would break, that I just didn't pull the purl stitches tightly enough, and that's why it is very loose in these parts that are prone to getting holes anyway. And not only is it too loose in the heel flap, it also got very cinched in the leg, because I increased the number of grass stitch motifs. As you can tell here in the foot, I did the grass stitch only on the instep, and on the leg I did it all throughout, and that's why this portion is a lot tighter. And I have to say, I'm not really convinced with the fit, also with the cuff, then also it's just a garter stitch cuff, but it's a lot wider than the leg, and it just looks off. So that's why I decided to most likely unravel the first sock once I'm done with the second one. And in this second sock I'm paying very close attention to my tension, so that I will not get these loose stitches here. What else? I'm knitting them on a 3mm needle, which corresponds to a US 2.5, but I actually did the cast on a 2.5mm needle, which is a US 1.5, because this is just what I had on hand in a circular needle form, because Miss Evil Knits actually recommends that you do the cast on and the increases in the beginning on the magic loop, because it's just easier to work them, and I have to agree. Here I used the double pointed needles and it was a lot harder, and I think when I used the magic loop it automatically looks a lot neater. So yeah, like I said, I just don't see any way around unraveling this one. I hope it's going to work out, because the yarn is so fragile, and then re-knitting it, because whenever I do knit something I want it to fit as best as it can in the end, so that I will get a lot of wear out of it and that I truly love the piece. So that's why I usually take the time to unravel and re-knit, and not just finish it for the sake of finishing it. And that is a great transition to the next piece I'm going to talk about, because I will have to do some unraveling here as well. I'm going to hold it up for you so that you can see. This is a top knitting pattern called Avel, and it is a pattern by Josephine and the Seeds. Now, I've talked about this pattern in several episodes now, and I was so happy when I finished it. Well, almost finished it, because I still have to do some finishing of the armholes and the neckline, and also of the lace here in the bottom hem. But yeah, I will have to unravel a good portion of it. You are probably going to be able to see it really well in the camera, but as you can see, the stripes here and also the upper part in the cream colorway is a lot more yellow toned than the stripes down here. I'm not sure why, maybe it's just a different dye lot, but I think it is quite a significant difference, and I don't really like how it looks. I would much rather prefer it to be all the same lighter cream color all throughout. And in addition, the fit is also not great. You do steady decreases when you knit it from the bottom up, and I think it just got a little bit too tight for me. just below the armpits. When I tried it on, it fits, but it's just not as comfortable as it could be, I think. So that's why I'm going to modify it just a bit and do fewer decreases when I knit up to the armholes before I split for the front and back. And in addition, I think you can tell it really well, the straps are also very small. Now granted, they are not finished yet because you do some finishing all around them, but I prefer a broader strap for a tank top because I don't really like it when the bra straps show. So that's why I'm going to also do fewer decreases down here so that the straps are going to be a lot wider. The yarn I'm using is a 100% linen yarn. It is called Lino Muka and you can get it in the online shop Wollen Berlin. I ordered the cream colorway like I said, and I dyed parts of it with cochineal to get this beautiful light shade of pink, which I really like. And yeah, I think this can be a very beautiful, versatile summer top, but it's just not there yet. But I'm getting to it, I'm sure. I'm going to unravel it now, since I've shown it to you, and then try to reknit it in a way that it fits a little bit better on me. Another work in progress that you have seen before is this small piece here. This is going to be the Maeron sweater by Natasha Hornby, and I'm knitting it out of Wool Dreamers Saona in the colorway Ozetta and 1985 as the contrasting color. This yarn is very nice and soft. It is a 50-50 blend of cotton and wool, and I'm really looking forward to wearing this finished piece, but I reckon that it might take me some time. As you can maybe see, I did not make any progress on it since I showed it to you first in the last episode. The issue with this is that it is a more complicated pattern anyway. I'm not sure if it's really complicated, but it's just not a simple all-over stockinette mindless project. And that's what I like about it, but I do have a gauge with the yarn I chose that is very different to the gauge in the pattern. So that means I have to rework the math completely, and since this is a very interesting construction and is actually knitted sideways, not only the stitch gauge but also the row gauge is highly important, and this is a bit of an issue, I have to say, for me. So whenever I'm about to knit a few more rows or rounds in this case, I have to check how many rounds I have to add due to my different row gauge. So what you do is that you cast on at the left shoulder, and then you work your way up here, and then you do the back, the left back and the left front, and you do the other side, and then you join them in the middle and you knit the sleeves and the hem. And I'm going to put up a picture for you. The sweater is absolutely stunning, and like I said, I can't wait to wear it, but we'll see when I really have the mind space to work on this again. It's also a very fine gauge. The needles I'm using are 3.25 millimeter, which correspond to a US 3. And yeah, it's just a bit more of an elaborate project, but like I said, I cannot wait to wear the sweater once it's finished. Alright, that's all of my whips. I'm a bit surprised actually. I think I have to cast on something new very soon. So let's get into dream knitting now. Alright, I have talked about my plans of knitting a dress for myself for quite some time now, and I've already showed you this beautiful colorway of Nutiden yarn, which is called Apostrophe, This was part of the March update of this year, and I purchased 500 grams in order to knit myself a dress. But after I showed this to you and talked about my plans in one other video, which is all about unspun yarn, I got several very valuable comments from people who have knitted a lot with unspun yarn and who told me that they didn't think 500 grams of Nutiden yarn held double would be enough for a dress. And this got me thinking, and you were totally right. So if you were one of the people who commented, thank you so much. I took your advice and I decided to pivot a bit, and I purchased some silk mohair to go with the Nutiden. So this is going to be the combination. This is the Tint Silk Mohair by Sandnes Garn, and it is in the colorway 3511, which is this beautiful dusty shade of light pink. I think it's going to look absolutely stunning together. In fact, I've also already made a swatch. Let me show you. This is how it's going to look. Now, I wasn't really sure which colorway would be best for mulling it together with the apostrophe. So what I did is that I recently discovered a somewhat local to me yarn store, which is in Mannheim in Germany, if you happen to be in the area, and it is called Amata Lana. And I took my apostrophe plate and I went there and I compared it with all of the silk mohair options they had there. I had originally imagined that I would get a silk mohair from Knitting for Olive, but looking at the different shades and the different shades of the Sandnes mohair, I opted for this light pink instead. The owner was actually very helpful and helped me pick out this shade, so thank you again. And I think it's going to be a very beautiful combination. Now, about the pattern. That's something I'm not sure about yet. Let me show you a favorite store-bought dress of mine that I've had for, I don't know, I think 15 years now, maybe. As you can see, try to fit it in the frame. It is a very fitted dress. Now, this is not a 100% wool dress, but it has the look, as you can see. And I would really like to recreate this shape, or maybe it's more like I have a dress out of these colorways in my mind, which looks similar to this one. But I have to say, I find it very difficult to find a good selection of dress patterns for women on Ravelry. Maybe it's just not so common to knit a dress for yourself, or maybe it requires too much yarn. I'm not sure why, but the selection is limited, and I'm going to show you what I am currently considering. And I would be very thankful if you would leave me a comment down below and let me know which pattern you would choose if you were me and would knit a dress with those two yarns. Now, I've looked at this pattern by Iona McLaughlin, which is originally a sweater pattern, but you can lengthen it to make it a dress, and one of her testers did it, and I think it looks very beautiful. I also had a look at this pattern, which I think is very, very pretty, but it is a bit more loose-fitting than what I have in mind. And then I also found this pattern on Etsy. This is a vintage dress pattern from the 70s, and you cannot see the complete dress in this picture, but I imagine this would look very pretty as well. So like I said, please leave me a comment and let me know what you would do. Let's move on to spinning now. Now, like I've mentioned in the last episode, I just got a spinning wheel for my birthday, and I'm currently teaching myself how to spin. The wheel I got is an Ashford Joy 2 with a double treadle, and I really like it so far. I am still in the experimenting phase and I'm not totally sure what I'm doing, but I'm learning something new every time I spin, and it's just so much fun. Now, I've showed you the first skein of yarn that I've ever spun on a wheel in the last episode, and I used a 100% Corriedale roving, not yarn, roving, to create this yarn, because I read that Corriedale is a great fiber for beginner spinners. And the next skein I spun is this one. I used the purple Corriedale roving again, what was left of it, and I plied it together with this natural colored 100% merino. So all of the yarns I have created so far are 2-ply, because the Ashford Joy 2 comes with 3 bobbins. So if you spin a single strand on the one bobbin and a single strand on the second bobbin, you have only one bobbin left to ply them together. So that's why I'm currently only doing 2 plies. And I'm thinking about getting myself 2 more bobbins and also a lazy Kate to hold them, because then I could do a 4-ply, and I'm very interested in trying this out as well. But I think for now the 2-ply is fine, because as you can see, the yarn comes out rather thickly anyway, because I still have to practice spinning finer yarns. So that was my second skein. And here is my third skein. This is again the natural 100% merino roving, along with some colorful, also 100% merino roving. I've got these beds when I learned how to spin on a drop spindle years ago. This was, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and I have kept them ever since, because I have been dreaming about purchasing a spinning wheel ever since, and now I'm very happy that I have these rovings to practice. But I think you can tell that I am getting a little bit better with the thickness, with a consistent thickness of the yarn, so I'm quite pleased. And the next skein I spun is this one. Let me show it to you. So this is, it looks a bit messed up, just dried this morning. This is a 100% Coburg Fox yarn, which is a German sheep breed, and it was very, very nice to spin. When I ordered the spinning wheel from an online store called Das Wollschaf, I'm going to link it for you. I think they ship within Europe if you're interested. I can highly recommend the shop. They not only have the wheels and all the accessories you could think of, but also a lot of different fibers. So what I was going to say was that when I got the spinning wheel, I ordered a spinning fiber starter pack, which consisted of, I think, 6 different rovings. Some are breed specific and some are mixtures, so that you can try out what feels good to you and what you like. And the first one I used was the Coburg Fox, because I actually have some Coburg Fox yarn in my Etsy shop that I sell, and I think it's a very, very lovely yarn with a beautiful golden undertone, and yeah, I really like this yarn. So that was the first one. And the next one that I did, that's still on the bobbin because I just plied it yesterday, is this one. So this is a mix of different gray fibers from South America. I have to say this was a bit more difficult for me to spin. This is not as consistent as the Coburg Fox. And then I moved on to the German merino, which I absolutely love, and I've only done the single so far. So this is the single strand, and this is how the fiber looks. but I really like it. I think it's a dream to spin, and I also really like it because I actually have a number of different yarn bases in my Etsy shop that use the German merino, and you cannot really compare the German merino sheep to the Australian merino sheep because the wool is just very different. We have a completely different climate here in Germany compared to Australia, but I really like how this came out, and I'm excited to experiment with it a bit more and see if I keep it in its natural colorway or maybe natural dye it later on. For now, I am not sure what I am going to knit with all the yarns that I'm currently spinning. So if you have any recommendations for a pattern, please let me know in the comments. And if you would like to know what I'm planning to knit for the upcoming spring and summer season, you can have a look at this video. Until next time, happy making. Bye guys!